on Dr. Phil. She thought she had the perfect family.
He was the best dad.
She had no idea
Victims had their feet bound and their eyes covered with tape.
that her husband
You found ladies' nylon. He says these are for you.
was a predator.
I found this brown paper bag with zip ties and syringes.
Police found a stun gun, handcuffs, and leg shackles in his car. Have you been living with a serial rapist? Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you
I
down.
try to be an emotional compass and point you in the right direction.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you. Imagine this scenario. A beautiful stay-at-home mom married to her high school sweetheart. 4 kids, a lovely home, and a seemingly good life. It's easy to picture, right? What if one day you found out that the man that you slept with every night, the father of your children, the man you sat with and watched television, was all of a sudden accused of living a secret life? And in fact, of being the very monster that you had been reading about and seeing on the news in your town. Well, this is what happened to this wife when police stopped her husband's car for a minor traffic violation. The officers noticed blankets partially covering some of the windows. With his consent, the officers searched the vehicle, and what they found was disturbing. They found handcuffs, ladies' nylons, syringes, a stun gun, prescription drug vials, adhesive tape, and metal leg shackles. Now, why on earth would he have these items in his car? Well, the police had their suspicions.
We are beginning tonight on the arrest of a Salinas man police say is a serial rapist.
The 40-year-old suspect, Lonnie Keith, has so far been charged with 2 counts of kidnapping and 1 count of rape. He's also the prime suspect in 9 similar unsolved sexual assaults.
Both victims had their hands and feet bound with plastic zip ties and their eyes covered with tape.
Detectives later searched his home and found syringes, vials of sedatives, handcuffs, leg restraints, and other items that they believe he had ready for another attack.
This suspect had created a cave, if you will, in the back of his vehicle.
Cops say blankets covered the windows of his vehicle. He allegedly strong-armed women into the back seat, stick them with a hypodermic needle, and drug them. Then cops say he'd tie them up and rape them. Neighbors say Keith loved playing sports with his kids, and his wife organized 4th of July block parties.
Keith is a physician's assistant and is the married father of 4.
Lonnie Keith's wife, Carrie, says her life changed forever when the police came to her home at 7 a.m. to break the news that her husband of 15 years had been arrested and charged with being a serial rapist.
My life was turned upside down a year ago. I was awoken to police officers outside of my home. They told me that my husband had been arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and possible rape. I was shocked. I thought, this can't be true. You have the wrong person. The detectives told me that young women were sedated and sexually assaulted. And they said Lonnie fit the description. In the car, they found leg restraints, handcuffs, zip ties, nylons, and syringes. The medical stuff, he said that it was just left over from the night before, which made sense. He worked in a hospital. I asked him why they found restraints or the women's nylons, and he suggested that they were for me. But I'm not into bondage and those type of things, so that did make me feel weird. I just kept saying to myself, this can't be happening. Lonnie and I were married for 15 years. It scares me that if they do have the right guy, I laid next to him in bed and had a family with him. Lonnie never showed me any signs of any kind of hate towards women. We have 2 daughters together, and he was the best dad since he's been gone. The girls don't want to talk about their dad being in jail. There was some teasing for my son at school. It's hard to think that somebody who you've been with for half of your life could at all be accused of something so heinous.
All right, Carrie, I'm glad to meet you, but I'm sorry for the circumstance. We always talk about hindsight being 20/20. As you now look back, do you see things now that didn't register with you at the time?
Honestly, sorry, my voice.
That's right.
Honestly, the things that I did see and find, he was having an affair, and I found out about that in like October of 11.
Right.
And the things I found, I always thought were for her. So as far as seeing this, no, absolutely not.
Now, he's been arrested, he's been indicted, he's pled not guilty. And so we have to treat these as allegations because he's not been convicted of it.
Right.
I wrote some things down for us to look at. You found some things in the home at the time. They were in paper bags in 2 different locations, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, you found zip ties. You asked him about it, and he says, these are for the bushes around the pool.
Yeah, that it was just for the pool.
You found ladies' nylons, not yours. And he said that they were for you.
Right.
Were they still in wrappers?
No.
He says these are for you.
Right.
So what he did is he's saying, I bought these, unwrapped them, wadded them up, stuck them in a paper bag with zip ties, and put them behind the dryer. And
well, the dryer was at his. He had an apartment for about 5 months.
Right.
And so they were hidden there. He knew I was being snooping, like I was snooping, and so he said that he put those there because he knew I was going to find them, and so
And then you found syringes.
I did, yeah.
And he says these were left over from his job as a physician's assistant.
Right, which he worked nights at that particular hospital where he probably would have had access to those meds. And so it didn't seem weird. It wasn't like he had a hammer or something with him. It was, he's not a carpenter. He wouldn't have had that. But the syringes didn't seem super weird. But however, when I did find those things, I did say, to myself, I thought, well, maybe he's using the needles for his own personal use. He works a lot. Maybe he's depressed. One medication I found was something with a, like when I Googled it, it said something about depression or something. So maybe, he was shooting up because he was depressed. I don't know. I mean, nothing.
But you found medication.
Yeah, a couple times I found vials of meds too in his car. But I thought, okay, he works. I mean, it's just, I didn't think it would be that weird to have medication because he's in a hospital. So, he goes into a room, pulls that out of his, coat and, shoots, puts whatever medication into the syringe and gives the person, medication. It didn't seem that weird. It wasn't that far-fetched.
Yeah.
To me.
Doesn't, yeah, of course. But you've never worked in a hospital. No. Yeah, because that's not how how that works.
I don't know. I don't.
Well, because really, you don't know. And I don't want to make light of that because now we look at it in this context and it seems more obvious or more noteworthy, but at the time I can understand how it might not. Did you ever notice that the SUV was draped, the windows were covered?
His car, a couple times I did see where the blankets were on the seat of the chair and then up. I did see that. And I would ask why, and he would just say, when I have to sleep in the doctor's lounge at night, it's, I'm sitting with 2 chairs propped up, and he's 6'4", so he's pretty tall. So I could just picture him sitting with 2 small chairs, and so he'd say he'd go out there and sleep at night.
Did you mention this to anyone else, the things that you found? You mentioned to your mother?
I did. I did talk to my mom.
Right.
Yeah.
And she had an opinion.
Yes, mothers do. Mine especially. I'll just say my mom watches a lot of crime scene shows. One day when I told her that, I found this brown paper bag with those items that I listed, she said, could Lonnie be raping women? And I'm like, okay, and I don't want to say it on TV, but of course I said, are you, something me, you're kidding. This is seriously. And she's like, oh, yeah, that sounds, yeah. And so she kind of reneged on it a little bit. But of course, I didn't think that. I just was looking at always the affair. So everything I found, I just spun on it, but for her. Even when I found this stuff, I was like, oh, the nylons are for her. Oh, the zip ties, she's weird, she likes that. It was just, I know it's stupid, but I couldn't get off of that.
So you explained it away in your mind by saying this is something he's doing with Sweet Baby over here. right?
I've got another name for her.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay,
yeah,
well,
lots of bleeps in there, but
there were questionable items that the police found in the car, correct? Mm-hmm. They found blankets and bedding covering the car's rear window. Mm-hmm. They found syringes loaded with an unknown substance. These were not syringes, they were loaded.
They were.
Rubber latex gloves, several nylons, adhesive tape cut into strips, metal handcuffs, metal leg restraints, plastic zip ties, multiple vials of prescription drugs, sedatives, flashlight, stun gun. They found strips already torn and preset.
Yeah, the tape, they did show me pictures of it. And if you're sitting in a car like this, the little center console here, the tape, like duct tape or something, had like gauze on it, and it was like 2 right here. And when they asked me about it, I'm like, oh, I could totally see that for your eyes. And they're like, what? And I was like, I don't know, I'm just picturing, like, when you go to a spa and they put, on your eyes or something, that's just kind of what I pictured. And so I don't know if that's what it was for, because then he later said it was for his toe, because he often had issues with the ingrown toe or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't think it was for his toe.
No, I don't think it was.
In their police report, they said the vehicle was stopped by detectives for a traffic violation. They said, quote, it was observed by the detectives that the rear passenger compartment had blankets and bedding partially covering the windows, that Lonnie Scott Keith consents to the search of his vehicle. He says, sure, you can look. Additional items found in a concealed compartment.
You would see it, the naked eye, you would see it. There was a loop on the seat. You could tell that it opened. It was under the seat, but I don't feel like it was, anybody could see that it was there.
I think the point is it wasn't out on the dash.
No. It definitely wasn't out on the dash.
Or whatever.
For sure.
And they said it appears as if the vehicle was staged for another assault. Now, at this point, given this is the Chico Police Department press release, that's just a few bullets from it.
Yeah.
There was much more to it. Have you been living with a serial rapist?
Allegedly, apparently. I mean, he hasn't gone to trial yet, so I don't know.
I'm just asking you what your gut tells you.
Based on what I've seen, I think I might have been.
All right, let's take a break. Next, after her husband was arrested for rape, Carrie wondered if somehow all of this was her fault. Well, Carrie's mother, Carol, joins us next with her thoughts on Carrie's blame game.
Before Lonnie was arrested, Carrie did find some zip ties, medication, syringes out in the garage, and then she found them behind the dryer at his apartment. One was a knockout drug, and one was a wake-up drug. Every time she would question him, he would explode. When I found out that Lonnie was arrested for rape, I was extremely shocked. Before Lonnie was arrested, Carrie did find some zip ties, medication, syringes out in the garage, and then she found them behind the dryer at his apartment. But he always had an excuse. He said the zip ties were for tying up the pool. The medication was left in his lab coat. And it made sense. Everything he said could be excused. Carrie texted me pictures of the medication, which I looked up online and found out one was a knockout drug, and one was a wake-up drug. He was working so much, I thought that Lonnie was actually doing drugs. About a year prior to all this happening, Carrie thought Lonnie was having an affair. Every time she would question him, he would explode, punch a hole in the wall, or he'd throw things. I would never have thought Lonnie would do this. Sometimes I feel like I just need to get out there and scream. I still have days where I can't believe he's done it. Then other times I wish I could just slap the hell out of him. How could he do it to these girls and to his boys? They're devastated. Lonnie has said that he wants his day in court, but we are preparing them for the worst. I think he looks guilty.
Okay, well, I'm here with Carrie and her mother, Carol. Carol, you were suspicious of him long before all of this broke, right?
I was suspicious more of him having an affair.
Right.
But I became more suspicious with things that Carrie found.
Yeah.
Of something else going on.
Now, and let me just clear something up right away. Sometimes we can get really frustrated with ourselves because we don't see something or it doesn't jump out at us. But here's the thing. A normal person's mind can't go there. I mean, you don't just normally say A, B, C, Q, R, X. That's not how we think. And so it's real hard for us to even conceive that somebody might be doing something so heinous, so bizarre. And that's a good thing that your mind can't go there, that you don't jump to a conclusion that later becomes obvious or confirmed. So you can't expect yourself, if your mind went there, it'd be a pretty dark mind to go in that way. So don't be too hard on yourselves about that. What does bother me is that your daughter has said that she really wrestles with herself about whether or not some of this is your fault. I mean, just being honest, whether some of it's your fault, not just whether some of the marital problems might be your fault, but whether or not because you didn't do what you needed to as a wife that maybe he defaulted to this or was driven to this. Tell me what your thinking is, and just be honest. I can't help you with what you don't tell me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, up until, excuse me, before I found out about the affair, I was just, I don't want to say just a stay-at-home mom, because that's a lot of what you do for kids in your family, but that's what I did all day. So I didn't find it necessary at the time. Now looking back, I probably would change things, but I didn't wear makeup. I didn't do my hair. I kind of just stayed in yoga pants all day, those type of things. So, you know, so maybe if I paid a little bit more attention to myself that way, you know, after I had my little guy, who's now 3, he would sleep in the middle of us at night. And so it'd be Lonnie, a pillow, the baby, and then me. You know, so I mean, I kind of separated us. So, I mean, I don't know if that was it.
How does that link up in a cause and effect way to somebody deciding that he's going to go kidnap and rape young girls?
I don't take any part in that. I think that probably, I don't know, I feel like that probably is something like stemming from way back. Yeah, I just don't see that. But as far as the affair, I mean, I feel like I probably wasn't, I don't know, I emasculated him a lot, and, you know.
Well, I wrote down some specific things that you said because they were very troubling to me. One is, you said, I should have seen what Lonnie was really up to. You said, I should not have been a bitchy wife.
Yeah, that I was.
You said, if I was thinner, more beautiful, more loving, Lonnie wouldn't have raped other women. Those are your words.
Yeah. I said that. Yeah. I've always battled with my weight. That's always been a big thing. Funny, when I first found out about the affair, and I, you know, of course, went on a Facebook, MySpace, all that type of stuff to find her. And when I did, I'm like, oh man, she's thin. That like really made me mad. Didn't care about the pretty part. I was like, oh man. And so yeah, that's like my own insecurity. But I mean, I guess she was just there in a hospital and paid him attention. And, you know, in a letter she wrote to him, she said, you know, I'll always let you watch football. I'll rub your back and all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay, I've got 4 kids. I'm sorry. Like, I would, you know, I just couldn't, I don't know, maybe just do the things that somebody else could. And now looking back, I mean, I feel like in the next relationship, you know, that I'll be so much better because I know what not to do. But we were so comfortable. I mean, I was with him since I was 15. You know, we just had 22 years of, you know, being with somebody. That's a long time. You get comfortable with them.
Yeah, and I know that you seem focused on the affair because it's something that you can put a face and a mind to. But your doubts extend to why he would go do anything, why he would turn away from you and go do these things. And let me tell you something. You can search through the literature, sociology, psychological, psychiatry, wherever, on why rape occurs, why rapists rape. And I can tell you sexual gratification is very low on that list. This happens because of a demented sense of entitlement. It happens because of a sense of power and control and anger and rage and sadistic mentalities. This has nothing to do with how cute you are or whether a child slept in your bed or how much you weighed or didn't weigh. Do you hear what I'm saying?
I do.
Totally. Does she hear what I'm saying?
I think she's trying to blame herself for a lot, and she's not to blame. This is a sick person who has done this, if he did it.
Well, there was something that we discovered in Carrie's home that troubled me. We'll discuss that when we come back.
The first 4 to 6 months were horrible. It was the worst of our lives.
One of the producers had mentioned they heard a voicemail message.
Yeah.
With the kids and Lonnie?
Yes, it is. As of this point, my son is the only one that knows about the rapes. My girls, who are 12 and 13, they don't know. I've just said that Dad's been accused of hurting young women. This is just something that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy.
Well, that was Carrie, a mother of 4, whose husband of 15 years made news last year after being arrested and charged with kidnapping and raping young women near the local college campus. She says she is now struggling to move past that scandal and put her life back together emotionally for herself and for her family. Now, when celebrities, politicians, or even other countries are caught in the middle of a scandal, many of them call my next guest to try and fix it. Judy Smith is one of the top crisis management experts and also the real-life inspiration behind the popular character Olivia Pope from the hit TV show Scandal. She is also author of Good Self, Bad Self, How to Bounce Back from a Personal Crisis. So I asked Judy to meet with Carrie and her mother at the Keith home in Northern California. She made a house call. Take a look.
I'm here today visiting a family who is in very serious crisis. The husband and father has been accused of rape. It's a family that needs help. Hi, Carrie, I'm Judy.
Come on in.
Thank you. It's good to see you. I kind of want to start from the beginning. You guys go way back.
We had a really good marriage up until about 2011. I found out that he was having an affair.
Did the kids know that their dad had cheated on the mom?
Yeah.
And how did they find that out?
I think they just saw a lot of the arguing.
Tell me about Lonnie's arrest. How did you feel about him?
I felt numb. Like, how am I going to tell my daughters?
How do you think the kids have been dealing with it?
The first 4 to 6 months were horrible. It was the worst of our lives.
One of the producers had mentioned they heard a voicemail message.
Yeah.
With the kids and Lonnie?
Yes, it is.
Hi.
Lonnie.
Carrie. We can't get to the phone. Leave us a message. Bye.
Hard.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. It's, you know, he's a part of our family, and, you know, you just can't forget that.
Where was the zip tie and the nylons?
There was a box, and I would snoop everything up. And I found a brown paper bag with the nylons, the zip ties, and the syringes.
What'd your mom say? What did she think?
Well, she said, could he be raping women? And I'm
like, oh my
like,
God, so your mom thought that?
My mom watches a lot of crime scene shows.
Do you feel as a family that all of you are victims as well?
We're definitely victims.
If he's found guilty, do you think you'll ever be able to forgive him?
No. No. There won't be any forgiveness.
So you think he might be found guilty?
I think he's going to be found guilty.
I hope it's all right if I talk to your mom as well. So, Carol, obviously everybody was shocked. What did you say to him when you found out?
I told him, Lonnie, basically, what they found in your car makes you I don't see how you could explain all that stuff. I trusted Lonnie 100%.
What do you think now?
Now, I am so unsure.
How do you think it'd affect your daughter and your grandkids?
It's going to be really hard on everybody. Tony will be my biggest worry.
Yeah.
Even though Lonnie's not his biological father, he's afraid that even having the last name
would affect that?
would affect him.
Your daughter looks at you as a rock. Who's there for you?
I'm there for me. It is very stressful.
Thank you for having me into you guys' home.
Well, Judy, I'm glad you went up there, and we've got a lot to talk about here. First, let's talk about this answer machine message. That seems really odd to me, that you still have the same answer machine message with his voice on there greeting anyone that calls your home.
I wanted to actually just delete it, erase it. And then the kids didn't want to. They like hearing that. And I did video record it that way. I can always have the kids' voices because my little guy was like, I think 2 or really young when we did it. And so he sounds super cute on there. I'm ready to. It's just, they kind of are, you know, no, we don't want to. There's times where I turn off the machine and it goes to voicemail, but then we don't get our messages. So, yeah, I would be okay with it. I think we'll probably re-ask them again because I think I asked them maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, and the first 6 months was hard, and then the last couple of months have been better. So they might be ready now.
I also get the sense, and I'm interested in Judy's take on this as well. I get the sense that there's a part of you that's still kind of defending him.
When he calls, I say, just tell me why were all those things in your car? And he always has, you know, oh, that was for the pool. He always has a great excuse. I'm like, Lonnie, they have this. They have so much information. Like, are you going to pull a rabbit out of your hat? Like, seriously, what's going to happen? And he's like, you just have to let me have my day in court.
I work with corporations and celebrities and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And we see, and I've come to learn, that everybody's the same, right? We all get ourselves in trouble, but at the core, it's that issue. Like, how did we get there? What happened? And I think for you along the way, and a lot of times clients need this sort of that big shock, right? There were a lot of warning signs.
Are you entertaining that this might just all be a big misunderstanding?
No, I'm pretty sure it's not. I mean, if so, because they've had him for over a year now in police custody.
I think the bail is $3.2 million.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
There's strips of tape pre-torn in a vehicle with syringes and sedatives and duct tape and handcuffs.
A lot of stuff. I didn't know about the handcuffs. I didn't know about the stun gun. Those things, like, actually, right before Christmas time, he had gotten, he was saying, oh, I'm going to go all out this year for Christmas, which he does. And he had said, don't go opening up any boxes and things like that, you know, don't check your email and all that. And so I later found out that that's when he bought the stun gun and the handcuffs and the leg restraints. So I didn't know about those things.
Well, okay. Well, all right, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Carrie's oldest son, Tony, is 15 years old. And he feels that he is now the man of the house. Should that be his role now that his father is gone? Well, we're going to talk to Tony next.
Are you angry with your dad?
I'm just angry that, like, we had a good life and he threw it all away.
Has there been any bullying?
One kid said that your dad raped those 2 girls because he wasn't getting any at home.
The fact that my husband Lonnie is still in jail, all of our resources went away. For 12 years, I had been a stay-at-home mom. Income was no longer there. Times are tough financially. I've decided I have to let my house go, that I just can't afford a mortgage payment. It feels horrible. We have friends here, and to have to walk away from all that, it's hard.
Carrie says that her world was shattered last year when her husband Lonnie was stopped by police who found a stun gun, handcuffs, zip ties, ladies' nylons, syringes, prescription drug vials, adhesive tape, and metal leg shackles in his car. He was then arrested for allegedly kidnapping and raping women. Now, top crisis management expert Judy Smith met with 15-year-old Tony to get his thoughts on this scandal that made news and rocked his family to the core.
So, Tony, are you angry with your dad for putting you and your family in this situation?
I'm just angry that, like, we had a good life, and he threw it all away. It's all gone.
When you first heard about it, what was your reaction?
Very shocking.
Do you still think he's a good dad? Was he a good dad?
Yeah, he's a good dad. I don't understand why he did it. I think there were signs, but I just don't think anybody picked up on it.
How have kids been at school and maybe online? Has there been any bullying?
There's a website that people can make comments. One kid said that your dad raped those 2 girls because he wasn't getting any at home.
Let's assume that your dad is found guilty. Are you concerned about your younger siblings?
Yeah, my sisters aren't gonna have their dad to, like, walk them down the aisle and stuff like that.
Somebody told me that you wanted to change your name.
Yeah.
Do you feel in some ways that changing your name is going to make it better for you so people won't associate you with him?
Yeah, I do. He's not my biological father, and don't feel as close to him.
So we know that your dad has been charged. There's still a trial and hasn't been convicted. If that happens, is that scary for you?
Yeah, not a lot of people like those kind of people in jail. So they tend to hurt him, I guess.
Yeah. You fear for his safety, his life?
Yeah.
You still love him? Always will?
I still see him as my dad.
That's where you want to keep him?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tony, for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I know it was hard, but I do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, joining us now is 15-year-old Tony. Tony, I appreciate you being here. I wish we were talking about a million other things than this. Judy, what are the most important things for Tony? I mean, kind of what's the Judy Smith fix-it plan for managing this scandal from his point of view?
Yeah. I think it's going to be critical for Tony. I agree, which is that he can't take on the role as a father figure.
I wrote down the things you said. Number one, you said, don't try to be the man of the house. You're not a substitute for the father. Ignore people who may use the situation to hurt you. It's your right to say you don't want to discuss.
Right, that's exactly right. We had talked a lot in terms of kids. You know, oftentimes kids can be mean and bullying. And a lot of times when kids do that, it's about their point of view. It's not about the person.
And you say it's important to realize that he did not create the situation and could not have prevented it.
That's right. Tony is not responsible for it, and oftentimes we feel bad, like we could have done something. And no, we couldn't have. It is his mess. He created it. He has to deal with it.
How do you feel about his attitude about wanting to change his name in terms of managing this scandal and crisis?
I think it's a small part of it. I think it's a very small part of it. Changing the name, if that is to run from the crisis and not to deal with it, that is not going to be helpful whatsoever. You have to do those things in terms of addressing it and talking about it. But I do think that it gives Tony a fresh start for him. In particular because while he loves this person, I'm sure still, it is not his dad. So I don't see that as a problem, but it has to be part of a bigger solution and part of a bigger plan.
Yeah. All right, Carrie says that she's lost her husband and his income after his arrest 1 year ago and doesn't know how to dig herself out of this crisis. Well, we'll see what our Fix-It expert Judy Smith has to say about her management plan when we come back.
The reality is Lonnie may never come home. I hope for the sake of my kids that he is proven innocent. I just don't want them carrying that stigma around with them forever. I do need help. I need help with how to talk with my kids. I don't want them feeling like they at all had a part in this.
That was Carrie, who says she does not know how to deal with the scandal of her physician assistant husband, Lonnie Keith, being arrested for allegedly kidnapping and sexually assaulting at least 2 women over the course of 18 months. Now, crisis expert Judy Smith has spent time with Carrie, also a mother of 4 children, and has put together a fix-it plan. And I don't mean to say that to suggest that this is an easy fix or something that just goes away with a couple of little spins. But you do have some important kind of talking points for her. And you started where I started, which is stop blaming yourself. That's the first one. We have it up on the graphic as well.
Oh, great. No, absolutely. Look, Carrie, we talked about this the other day. It is very hard not to blame yourself, but you are not the blame. You cannot take responsibility for his actions. That is going to be your first starting point in order to move forward. But I want you to also see in that it is a huge opportunity. It is, because you can reinvent your second half of your life, right? What do you want to do? So I think part of what you want to think about is not a job, but what you want that career to be like.
And you said that she needs to let go of Lonnie's baggage and start building this new life. I mean,
yeah.
Fair or unfair, it is what it is, and the sooner you get started, the better off, right?
Yeah, and letting go the baggage relates to the first point, which is coming to terms with, I did not do this. I did not cause this. So you can put his baggage some other place and put it out of your hands. And that's important.
And you said reputational management's important. Yeah. And one of the things that you say is you got to plan ways to discuss this with family and friends that you're comfortable with. And the point is, people are going to see her at church or the store or in the pickup line at school or whatever. Some people are going to bring it up. Some people are going to like, oh, I don't know what to say. Mm-hmm. She's got to come up with, here's what I say, here's what I do, so you don't have to think about it fresh every time you're with somebody. Right. Have a plan.
Right. Absolutely.
You and I both feel it's important to seek family counseling. Please allow me to make that a gift from us to you guys and make that arrangement to help all of y'all sit down and think through this. And we'll make those arrangements for you back at home. Okay. So you do have someone to talk to. And you're going to need maybe some life coaching and career thinking. Yeah. We want to help you with all this because you're the victim here, not the perpetrator. All right, I thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. You know, when people get into a crisis or a scandal, some folks don't know, but there are people that you go to that help you through that. And Judy Smith is one of the top crisis experts in the country, and she has helped rebuild the reputation of celebrities like Wesley Snipes, Jesse Jackson Jr., Monica Lewinsky, NFL quarterback Michael Vick, and many others. Now, there are some people who are not her clients, but if they had a brain in their heads, they would be, because they would certainly benefit from her expertise. So I just kind of want to talk about this. Here's a clip of a controversial public figure, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
Traffic nightmare, a deliberate act of revenge? Stuck in traffic for 4 hours? All because they didn't support New Jersey Governor Chris Christie?
Wildstein's attorney claimed that evidence exists tying Mr. Christie to having knowledge of the lane closures during the period when the lanes were closed, contrary to what the governor stated publicly.
I had no knowledge of this, of the planning, the execution, or anything about it. And then I first found out about it after it was over. And even then, what I was told was that it was a traffic study.
Okay, people always say politics, they're first national, then they say, no, they're local.
Local.
I think they're personal. Yeah. And if you're sitting on that bridge for 4 hours, you are pissed off. And if you then find out he did it as retribution, you're going to be, like, hugely pissed off. What's he do now?
No, absolutely. But this is what he did, which was right, is that he came out, and he's done this twice, at least, is to say, I did not have any knowledge of it. I didn't know anything about it. And he has said that, and he has denied it. Now, what's going to be the problem here is that what happens in crisis oftentimes is that when you start an investigation, you're going down this road, You see something that takes you down that road. And then that road is a very dangerous turn because we don't know where that might lead.
All right, we'll be right back. I'd like to thank all of my guests today. Special thanks to Judy Smith. Judy's book, Good Self, Bad Self, How to Bounce Back from a Personal Crisis, is currently in bookstores. And let me tell you something. You can use this in your everyday life. I have read it cover to cover. Mine is marked up. Yours will be too. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, come get you in a second. Thanks so much. Thanks, guys.